Greetings, my movie geeks. Welcome back to Halloween Countdown. 31 films in 31 days, or 31 films of horror. Tonight, we watched The Autopsy of Jane Doe, directed by Olwen, starring Emile Hirsch and Brian Cox. I got it! I did it, got it right. I'm the Ultimate Movie Geek, and I'm joined by my wife, Mrs. Movie Geek. She doesn't like that. I'm just going to carry on. Oh, you don't care?
Yeah, just crack on.
So, The Autopsy of Jane Doe is basically what it says on the tin. It's an autopsy of a woman they find, and they have to call her Jane Doe because they don't know what she's called. But there's some spooky goings on.
Yeah, the film starts off, there's been a homicide, so the police are called, well, they're at a scene, aren't they? They're at a house, and it's like, it looks like a family have been slaughtered inside the house. Everywhere's closed up, so it's like as if it's
like
somebody happened inside. And one of the crime scenes said it's like as if they were trying to get out themselves. And I mean, it's horrific, isn't it? There's like 3 different bodies there.
There's lots, very, very gory.
Yeah, and then the sort of chief of police, I think the sheriff, is up in a room looking at something, and then he gets a call on radio. He's like, you need to come down and look at this. Goes down to the basement, or cellar. If you live in England, it's a cellar. It goes down the basement, and there is a partially uncovered body. So it's like a very shallow grave.
Shallow grave, quite well preserved.
Yeah, and the young, naked, beautiful woman, half buried, but she looks like she's just died. She's very fresh.
Yeah, looks like they were just burying her.
Yeah.
It's really
and
good.
they're all like, what the heck has gone on here? It then cuts to an undertaker.
Yeah, father and son undertaker, isn't it?
I think he is the coroner, and also like an undertaker memorial home.
So the sheriff takes the bodies to him to find out cause of death.
Yeah, they were expecting more, but he ended up taking just the Jane Doe there, and he said, "I've got 3 bodies plus this. We don't know what the hell's gone on. I'm going to need you to work through the night to get information." And he's there. His son is his son's about to leave with his girlfriend to go watch the movie, isn't he? He's just finished another autopsy.
Well, there's an underlying story of him. He doesn't want to be an undertaker, which I think that's quite thematic, seeing as we watched one the other day where someone ran to the Catholic Church because he didn't want to be an undertaker. Anyway, so he leaves the girlfriend to come and help the father, I think out of guilt, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like their house. It's like their house, but it's also the current,
like they've extended downstairs, like the
so they've got like their house, and then they go down like 2 flights of steps, but also a lift to go to the mortuary. So they've got 3 of the bodies in, haven't they, as well? And earlier on, when the girlfriend was there, she was like, "Can I have a look?" And the lad was like, "No, my dad would kill me."
And he was like,
his dad appears. He goes, "No, let her have a look."
And he's quite sinister, isn't he? But it's Brian Cox, so he's always bloody sinister.
And he sort of shows, and they don't uncover a face of one. He said, "Trust me, you don't want to see it."
And you can see because it's in.
Yeah. So you can tell it's a gruesome one. And there's a bell on the toe. And she's like, "Why has it got a bell on the toe?" And he said, "Well, I'm old school." He said, "Back in the day, it was very hard to tell whether some people were dead." He said, "So we used to tie bells on the toes.
So if you hear it ringing.
And if you heard it ringing, you knew they weren't quite, the mortician knew they weren't quite
It's a nice little play, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a Chekhov's gun, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So there's these 3. They did one who died in a fire as well, but they realised he was like, the senior was trying to teach the younger person, because he was like, "Oh, he's just died in the fire."
And
it's like, has he?
Yeah.
And it's good because it's sort of showing you how he's coming to those conclusions. But anyway, cuts back to, that was earlier, so it now cuts back to his girlfriend's gone off. He sort of said, "You go, I'll come back, come back in a few hours. We'll do a midnight showing. Yeah, and I'll be done here, but I need to help my dad." So it's then him and his dad
doing the autopsy, and it's quite thorough in it, and you get a lot of close-ups of Jane Doe and her face, and the actress or dummy or whatever they use just has so much like emotion for being a dead person, and they do it in such a way.
It must have been so difficult as well, because she's laid there completely naked, and that's all she does throughout the film. Jane Doe doesn't actually interact
do anything
at all with them.
But she does, because of the way the camera moves and the way they use her body.
They have to move her a couple of times, don't they,
and
to get a neck.
So sometimes they move her head up like that, they have her mouth open, so then for 10 minutes of the film she's like that, and she's had a tongue cut out.
And the more they get into the autopsy, the more horrendous death they realise. And what they can't understand is, from the outside,
nothing.
There's no marks, there's nothing. But actually, when they start doing more,
well, for starters, he's doing like a movement test,
lividity and everything.
And her wrists have been broken, like shattered, but there's no bruising. Her ankles have been shattered, and there's no bruising. Nothing there. And I think, was there anything else?
So she had lesions as if she'd been stabbed numerous times. When they opened her up, all her internal organs had scars. Her lungs were black, and they couldn't explain it. If the son said maybe she was a heavy smoker, and he said you'd have to smoke 4 packs a day for 40 years and it still wouldn't look like that. There's just horrendous injuries to her internally.
Nothing on the outside.
Nothing externally, and they just couldn't explain it. They opened her stomach, and they found it looked like a hex bag, and it was a piece of parchment or something tied up. And when they opened that, there was a tooth in. Her tooth. She had a tooth missing, and in the parchment there was Roman numerals and
Bible verse,
something like the Vipers or something. I can't remember now, but and when they looked it up, it talked about a witch.
So they decipher that through the Roman numerals, and she's the fact that the Pete has shown that she's from the north suggests that she's part of the Salem witch trials.
I think it had the date on possibly 1673.
So the father decides that, or quickly comes to the conclusion that she's been tried as a witch and suffered all this pain, this horrendous pain, and from what they've done, they have created
what they were scared
of. They have created
she wasn't
a
witch, but
now she
doing
is.
What they did to her made her so vengeful. It created this thing, and they take a slither of her brain, and that's when they really get scared. Because there's a couple of things that start. A couple of the mortuary doors slowly open, and they're just like, "Oh, can't shut it properly." And they do it again, and then something else happens. It's like, what's going on? And they take a slither. Put it under a microscope, and
it suggests that she's still alive. It's still,
and he's just like, she's not dead.
Even though her eyes at the beginning, they said that she wouldn't have had those eyes. You've got to be dead for a few days to have that, and nothing seems to add up. But it is such a good film, because what happens is that the 3 bodies that you were introduced to in the morgue. The guy with the bell, or the woman with the bell, can't remember. That starts to appear, to ding, and the way they filmed it is they don't go into too much detail. You don't see too much, and we've already filmed this. Actually, I'm just going to say we've already filmed this, and the camera went off. But we watched It Chapter 2 last night, and what you said, it wasn't really scary. But that's because they show everything. In this film, they let the darkness in your imagination work, so that there's nothing scarier than your imagination. So when you see something moving, it then goes to pitch black. And then it comes into the light a little bit, and then it goes to pitch black again.
You get a couple of shots, don't you? Like the woman who's got a mouth stitched up. So you see, you sort of see her face very briefly, and they panic. But other than that, and the noise of the bell, a lot of it is suggestion. And the poor cat's dead. You hear that, and he looks in the air vents, and the poor cat's dead, and he has to kill it and break its neck. And You know, so there's quite a lot of emotion because their mum passed away, and I think that's a big overarching thing that he feels he needs to still look after his dad and be there for his dad. And it was a hard film to watch because you were rooting so much for them,
and they're actually quite sympathetic to Jane Doe as well. And the way it turns out is they do what Jane Doe wants, but it doesn't turn out the right way from an audience point of view.
Yeah, I mean the father's quite. He realises what's happened to her. He's really quite quick on the ball, and he, you know, when it gets to the point where they've set her on fire, nothing's worked because they just don't know how to get out of there, and they're trying these doors, and it's like this trees fell on it because there's this storm. The radio keeps going on about storm, playing the same music, and you can hear the storm where they are. They can't get out those doors. The lift won't work because the power outage, and they're on a generator, and it won't fire the lift. It'll just have
they're
the
stuck
lights
there.
on.
They can't move.
Yeah, and it's like you really sort of willing him, and he just says, he leans into her, and he says, you know, I won't fight you, but let him live, about his son.
Yeah.
He then very quickly starts going through everything that she's had, his arms and his legs going collapsing on the floor.
Breathing out a lot of smoke.
He's breathing out smoke. He's like this, as if he's being stabbed. And he's being absolutely tortured, isn't he? And he says to his son, you know...
He tries to reach for a scalpel, and the son gets it and puts him out of his misery. Now, what happens is everything goes to normal. She has healed up, like they haven't been through an autopsy.
Back on,
lights back works. On. And he hears the sheriff, and he runs to the door, which has been covered by the tree.
Like basement doors and cellar doors.
Cellar doors. And the sheriff's talking through the door.
Yeah, he's like, we'll be with you soon, don't worry, we're getting you out.
But then he starts singing that song that was been coming over the radio. He turns around, and then he sees his dad dead. Falls down 2 flights and dies.
He's dead, so they're both dead.
Yeah, but I think that the reason why that happened was because he killed his dad, because he didn't finish going through what Jane Doe went through, so the deal was cut. He's dead.
Yeah,
and then
we probably missed out on this one because we did it on the last one. So they were hiding in their office. They tried to ring out and everything, and obviously the power went out. They couldn't get through properly to the police. They hear the bell under the door. He sees his foot, and the door starts rattling. So they put this filing cabinet there. When they eventually can muster the courage, because they know they've got to get out of there,
they've got to do something.
They move it, and they're listening. He's got an axe from the other sort of side of the office, and he goes out, and there's somebody there, and he axes them because they think it's one of the bodies, and it's actually the girlfriend because she come back to come back for the boyfriend. Yeah, it's like she'd been allowed in. She dies on the floor. The boyfriend's beside himself, and the dad is, because he's like, I thought it was one of the, you know, I didn't realise it was her. So it's quite twisted, really.
It is, yeah.
And you know, because they do seem like a genuine nice family.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? There's nothing.
They don't.
And that's what the other family seemed like as well.
Yeah, they said that about them. They were like, this family, you know, there's solid family, and and the mystery of it, which you don't get to understand. I mean, they take her away, like the sheriff says, when they do get in, and they're like, this looks like a murder-suicide, and he said, I know what it looks like, I know this family, that didn't happen. And he said, get her out of my county.
So he knows there's something going on there.
You can tell by his face, like, get her out of my county now. And the private sort of ambulance comes to take her, and she drives off. Well, she doesn't, she's in the back. And the music comes on again, the same music, so something obviously is going to happen.
Yeah.
What I found interesting is, you don't actually ever get to know how she turned up in that basement in that house.
No, you don't.
How did she get there?
Yeah.
Because she's from Salem. She was probably buried in Salem.
Well, she was, because of the peat underneath her
and it's
fingernails.
like, how on earth did she get to where she got? And it's almost like she's probably just causing carnage wherever she goes. Really good film. I really enjoyed this.
What would you give it from your pumpkin patch?
I would give this a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 pumpkins?
For me, it's the type of scary film that I like. It's it's just a very, what is it, bottle?
Yeah, very, because it's shot in one location.
It's just really, really good. A lot of it's left to your imagination. and the fact that she's so terrifying by laying there naked, and I think that must have been really hard as an actor to do that.
Like I said at the beginning, if that's in this video, just by doing nothing, she was able to have a lot of emotion.
Yeah, on the page.
By just
very good.
Like just being manipulated by the people doing the autopsy.
Yeah.
And like, just it's mental.
I really enjoyed this film.
I did.
Really enjoyed it the first time, and I enjoyed it again. How many would you give
I'm
it?
going to give it a 10 because it's a proper
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought that, like, the filmmaking of this film is great. It's really there are some elements of CGI that don't really work. Like you said, the old woman who's had her mouth sewn shut is like and you can tell it's fake. But like the corridor scene where something is walking down the corridor, but the darkness is used, and it's not fake darkness. You know, where you see a scene from a film and it's supposed to be pitch black, but you can see everything. It's as lit as this room, but they use darkness to the effect.
Yeah, it's good.
And it makes you scared because you don't know what's down there. You have seen these bodies in this morgue, but you haven't seen them all or fully. And it's coming towards you. The way the camera angle is, it's coming towards you. And it's a scary film that scared me. So,
it's a good film.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. So tomorrow night, Orphan tomorrow night. I've not seen that one. I think we're going to have my sister round. She won't be reviewing it, but she's going to watch it. And we will see you tomorrow for some more chills and thrills.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you later.
Open up your heart and let go.